The air was thick with the kind of quiet that presses against your chest. The kind that makes you notice every creak in the floorboards and every tick of the clock. I sat on the porch of our old farmhouse, the paint peeling like memories flaking off a forgotten life. At 72, I'd seen enough sunsets to know this one was different, too red, too heavy, like blood pooling on the horizon. My son, Caleb, was inside, laughing with his wife, Sarah. Their voices carried through the open window, light and warm, but something in me stirred uneasily. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, like a note played wrong in a song you've known forever. Sarah had come into our lives 3 years ago, a whirlwind of charm and sharp wit. She was 28, with eyes that sparkled like they held secrets and a smile that could make you forget your own name. Caleb adored her, and I'll admit, I did at first. She'd sit with me on this very porch, asking about my days as a schoolteacher, listening like she really cared. But there were moments, fleeting ones, where her smile faltered, where her gaze drifted to some unseen place, dark and distant. I chalked it up to her being young, maybe carrying the weight of a past she hadn't shared. We all have shadows, don't we? That evening, Caleb had insisted on a family dinner, a rare thing since they'd moved to the city an hour away. I was thrilled to have them back, to hear the house alive again with their voices. But as we drove into town to pick up groceries, the air shifted. Sarah was behind the wheel, her hands gripping the steering wheel a little too tightly. Caleb was in the back, humming to the radio, oblivious to the tension radiating from her. I sat in the passenger seat, watching her out of the corner of my eye. Her jaw was set, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You all right, Sarah?" I asked, my voice soft, not wanting to pry too deep. "Fine, Dad," she said, her tone clipped, her eyes never leaving the road. She called me Dad, a habit that usually warmed me, but tonight it felt like a mask. I let it go, turning my gaze to the fields rolling by, the cornstalks bowing under the weight of an early autumn breeze. We were almost at the store when the flashing lights appeared in the rearview mirror. A police cruiser, its siren giving a single, sharp wail before falling silent. Sarah's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "What's this about?" Caleb muttered, craning his neck to look back. I felt my stomach twist, an old man's instinct for trouble honed by years of living. The officer approached, a young man with a stern face and eyes that seemed to see too much. He leaned down to Sarah's window, his badge catching the last of the sunlight. "License and registration, please," he said, his voice flat but firm. Sarah fumbled in her purse, her hands trembling just enough for me to notice. She handed over her license, and the officer studied it, then glanced at her, then back at the card. "Wait here," he said, walking back to his cruiser. Caleb leaned forward, his voice light but edged with worry. "What's the big deal? You weren't speeding, were you?" "No," Sarah snapped, then softened. "I mean, I don't think so. It's probably nothing." But her eyes were darting to the side mirror, watching the officer like a hawk. When the officer returned, he didn't hand back the license right away. Instead, he motioned for me to step out of the car. My knees creaked as I complied, the gravel crunching under my boots. He led me a few steps away, out of earshot from Caleb and Sarah. His face was unreadable, but his voice dropped to a whisper, urgent and low. "Mr. Harlan, your daughter-in-law's license. It's clean, but I ran it through the system. She's hiding something terrible. I can't say more here." But you need to be careful. My heart thudded. A slow, heavy beat. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. But the officer just shook his head, handed me a card with his name, Officer Daniel Tate, and told me to call him later. He returned to Sarah, gave her back her license with a curt nod, and let us go without another word. As we drove on, the silence in the car was deafening. Sarah's hands were steady now, but her face was pale, her lips tight. Caleb was asking questions, trying to lighten the mood, but I couldn't focus. The officer's words echoed in my head. She's hiding something terrible. What could it be? Sarah, with her bright laugh and quick hugs, what could she be hiding that was so bad it made a cop whisper warnings to an old man? Back at the house, I watched her closely as she chopped vegetables, her movements precise but mechanical. Caleb was oblivious, joking about the store's overpriced tomatoes. But I saw the strain in her eyes, the way she flinched when the knife slipped. I wanted to ask her, to demand answers, but something held me back. Maybe it was fear of what I'd uncover, fear of breaking the fragile peace of our family. That night, as I lay in bed, the officer's card burned a hole in my pocket. I didn't sleep. The house creaked around me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever Sarah was hiding, it was closer than I thought, close enough to touch, to destroy. The next morning, the house felt different, like it was holding its breath. I was up before dawn, the coffee pot hissing as I stared out the kitchen window at the fields, still cloaked in mist. Caleb and Sarah were asleep upstairs, their footsteps silent for now. I turned Officer Tate's card over in my hands, the edges already worn from my restless fingers. I wanted to call him, to demand answers. But what would I say? Accuse my daughter-in-law based on a whisper? I needed more, something concrete to hold on to. When Sarah came downstairs, her hair was pulled back, her face fresh but guarded. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Morning, Dad," she said, pouring herself coffee. I nodded, watching her movements, searching for a crack in her facade. She seemed normal, too normal, like someone trying hard to be invisible. Caleb followed soon after, his usual cheer filling the room. But I couldn't shake the weight of Tate's words. After breakfast, I made an excuse to head into town alone, saying I needed to pick up some tools from the hardware store. The truth was, I needed space to think, to decide what to do. The drive was quiet, the radio off, my thoughts a tangle of doubt and loyalty. Sarah was family, but families have secrets, don't they? I'd learned that the hard way years ago, when my wife, Ellen, passed. She'd kept her illness from me for months, thinking she was protecting me. The memory stung, sharp and raw. Even now, at the hardware store, I lingered, pretending to browse while my mind churned. I couldn't confront Sarah without proof it would tear Caleb apart. But ignoring Tate's warning felt reckless, like ignoring a storm cloud on the horizon. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number on the card, my heart pounding as it rang. "Officer Tate," came the voice, crisp and professional. "This is John Harlan," I said, my voice low, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "You pulled us over yesterday. Said something about my daughter-in-law. Sarah. I need to know what you meant." There was a pause, long enough to make my stomach twist. "Mr. Harlan, I can't discuss it over the phone," Tate said finally. "Meet me at the diner on Route 12. Noon. Come alone." I agreed, my mouth dry, and hung up. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. I drove to the diner, A small place with chipped mugs and faded checkered tablecloths. Tate was already there, sitting in a corner booth, his uniform replaced by a plain jacket. He looked younger out of uniform, but his eyes still carried that weight, like he'd seen too much for his years. "Mr. Harlan," he said, nodding as I slid into the booth. "I'm sorry for being cryptic yesterday. I had to be sure it was safe to talk." "Safe?" I leaned forward, my voice sharp. "What's going on? What's Sarah hiding?" Tate glanced around, then lowered his voice. "Her license is clean, like I said. But when I ran it, I got a hit on a flagged database not criminal, but sensitive. Sarah's name, or one she's used, is tied to a missing persons case from 10 years ago. A woman named Emily Carter vanished in Ohio. Sarah's ID matches details from that caseage. Description: even a scar on her left wrist." My mind reeled. I'd seen that scar. A thin white line Sarah said she got from a childhood accident. "You're saying Sarah's not who she says she is?" "I'm saying there's enough to raise questions," Tate said. "I can't access the full filate's locked. Federal level. But I've seen this kind of thing before. People running from something. Hiding in plain sight. You need to find out who she really is. For your family's sake." I sat back, the diner's hum fading to a dull roar in my ears. Sarah. Or Emily. Or whoever she was, could she really be hiding something so big? I thought of Caleb. So trusting. So in love. If Tate was right, this could break him. But if he was wrong, I'd be betraying Sarah's trust for nothing. I drove home, my thoughts a storm. When I walked in, Sarah was in the living room, reading a book, her legs tucked under her. She looked up, smiling, but I saw it now, the flicker of something guarded in her eyes. "Everything okay, Dad?" she asked. "Fine," I lied, my voice steady despite the churn in my gut. I needed answers, but I needed to be smart. That night, I started watching her closer, noting the way she avoided certain topics, the way her laugh sometimes sounded forced. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. Tate's words had planted a seed, and it was growing, dark and thorny, in my heart. Days passed, and the weight of suspicion settled into my bones like damp cold. I tried to act normal, to laugh at Caleb's jokes, to nod at Sarah's stories, but every interaction felt like a test. Was she lying when she talked about her childhood in Colorado? Was the way she hugged Caleb a performance? I hated the doubt, hated how it turned me into someone I didn't recognize, a man spying on his own family. I started digging, quietly, in the evenings, when Caleb and Sarah were out or asleep. I'd sit at the old desktop in the study, searching for Emily Carter. The internet was a maze, full of dead ends and half-truths. But I found a news article from a small Ohio town, dated 10 years back. Emily Carter, 22, vanished after a party. No body, no leads, just a grainy photo of a young woman with Sarah's eyes. Her scar, her guarded smile. My heart sank. The resemblance was uncanny. But was it proof? I needed more. I started watching Sarah's habits, looking for clues. She was careful, always locking her phone, never leaving papers lying around. But one afternoon, while she and Caleb were at the market, I slipped into their room. My hands shook as I opened her nightstand drawer, guilt clawing at me. I found nothing but a few receipts and a cheap necklace, the kind you'd buy at a gas station. No answers, just more questions. That evening, I called Tate again. I found something about Emily Carter, I said. My voice low. The house quiet around me. Is it her? Is Sarah Emily? Tate sighed. I can't confirm that, John. But I've got a contact in Ohio who might know more. I'll reach out. But you need to be careful. If she's running, she's got a reason. People like that they don't take kindly to being cornered. His words chilled me. I pictured Sarah, her smile fading, her eyes turning hard. Could she be dangerous? I didn't want to believe it, but the seed of doubt was sprouting roots. I started keeping my distance, making excuses to avoid being alone with her. Caleb noticed, his brow furrowing when I dodged Sarah's offer to help with dinner. You okay, Dad? He asked, his voice soft, searching. I'm fine, son, I said, forcing a smile. But I wasn't. The house, once a haven, felt like a stage, and we were all playing parts, hiding truths. A week later, Tate called me back. My contact came through. He said, Emily Carter's case is still open. There's a witness who saw her with a man the night she disappeared, a man with a record. Violent. If Sarah is Emily, she might be running from him. Or she's hiding something worse. I thanked him, my mind racing. A violent man. A missing woman. Sarah's scar. Her guarded looks it all fit. But it didn't. I needed to talk to her, to see her reaction. But fear held me back. What if she ran? What if she hurt Caleb? I decided to wait. To watch. To gather more pieces of the puzzle. That night, Sarah caught me off guard. I was in the kitchen, staring at the coffee pot, lost in thought, when she walked in. Dad, she said, her voice soft but firm. You've been acting strange. Did I do something wrong? Her eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, I saw something raw fear. Maybe. Or pain. My throat tightened. No. Sarah. I lied. Just old age. I guess. Makes me moody. She nodded, but her gaze lingered, like she knew I was hiding something too. The irony wasn't lost on me. We were two people circling each other, both holding secrets, both afraid of the truth. The tension in the house grew thicker, like fog rolling in from the fields. Caleb sensed it too, though he didn't say it outright. He'd started watching me and Sarah, his eyes flicking between us, searching for the source of the unease. I wanted to tell him everything, to lay out Tate's warning and my suspicions. But I couldn't. Not yet. Not until I knew for sure. I kept digging. My evenings spent poring over old articles, piecing together Emily Carter's story. She'd been a student, bright and ambitious, until that night she vanished. The man Tate mentioned he'd a boyfriend. Maybe. Had a rap sheet, assault, theft, a restraining order Emily had filed weeks before she disappeared. The more I read, the more I wondered, was Sarah running from him? Or was she tied to something darker? Something that made her erase her past? One morning, I found a clue. Sarah had left her phone on the counter, unlocked for once. My hands trembled as I picked it up, glancing at the door to make sure she wasn't coming back. I opened her messages, scrolling through mundane texts with Caleb, a few with friends I didn't know. Then I saw a message from an unknown number. Sent late at night. You can't hide forever. I know where you are. My blood ran cold. I snapped a photo of the screen with my own phone, then put hers back, my heart pounding. When Sarah returned, she didn't notice anything amiss. But I saw the way her eyes darted to her phone, the way she slipped it into her pocket like it was a bomb. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers. But I needed more time. I called Tate, telling him about the text. "That's a lead," he said. "I'll trace the number. But John, don't do anything rash. If she's in trouble, confronting her could make her bolt." I nodded, though he couldn't see me, and hung up. That night, I watched Sarah closer than ever. She was quieter, her smiles forced, her hands fidgeting. At dinner, Caleb tried to keep things light, talking about a new project at work. But Sarah barely responded. I caught her glancing at the windows, like she expected someone to be watching. Later, as I sat on the porch, the stars hidden by clouds, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Sarah, wrapped in a shawl, her face pale in the moonlight. "Can't sleep?" she asked, sitting beside me. "Old bones don't rest easy," I said, forcing a chuckle. But my heart was racing. This was my chance, but I had to tread carefully. "Sarah," I said, my voice low, "you know you can tell me anything, right? If you're in trouble, I'm here." Her eyes widened, just for a moment, before she masked it with a smile. "I'm fine, Dad." "Really?" But her voice cracked, and she looked away, her hands twisting the edge of her shawl. I wanted to push, to ask about Emily, about the text, but something in her eyes stopped my fear, raw and unguarded. For the first time, I wondered if she wasn't hiding something terrible, but running from it. The thought shifted something in me, a flicker of empathy cutting through my suspicion. "I mean it," I said, softer now. "Whatever it is, your family. We face it together." She nodded, her eyes glistening, but she didn't speak. She stood, squeezing my shoulder before heading back inside. I stayed on the porch, the night pressing in, wondering if I'd just missed my chance or saved us all from something worse. The next day, Tate called with news. "The number from that text, it's a burner phone. Untraceable," he said. But my contact in Ohio sent more on Emily Carter. "There's a photo, clearer than the one in the news. I'm emailing it to you. Compare it to Sarah. And John, be careful. If she's Emily, she's been running a long time. People like Thathy unpredictable." I opened the email on my phone, my hands shaking as the image loaded. It was her Sarah's face. Younger, softer, but unmistakable. The scar, the eyes, the way her lips curved. My heart sank. Emily Carter wasn't just a name. She was my daughter-in-law. But why? Why hide? Why lie to Caleb? To me? I couldn't wait any longer. That evening, I asked Sarah to join me for a walk. Caleb was at the hardware store, giving us time. She agreed, though her eyes were wary. We walked along the edge of the fields, the cornstalks rustling in the breeze. The air was cool, the sky bruised with clouds. "Sarah," I said, stopping by an old oak tree, "I know about Emily Carter." Her face froze, her breath catching. For a moment, I thought she'd run, but she just stood there, her hands clenched at her sides. "What do you know?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I know you're her," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I know you disappeared 10 years ago. I know about the man, the one you were running from. And I know you're scared." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't deny it. "You don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I had to leave. He would have killed me. I didn't have a choice." "Who was he?" I asked, stepping closer. Tell me, Sarah. Let me help. She shook her head, tears spilling now. You can't help. No one can. He's still out there. And if he finds me, she trailed off, her hands covering her face. I reached out, touching her arm. You're not alone anymore. You've got Caleb. You've got me. Whatever it is, we'll face it. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine. And for the first time, I saw her not Sarah, not Emily, but a woman carrying a decade of fear. His name was Marcus. She said finally. He was my boyfriend. He hurt me. When I tried to leave, he said he'd find me, no matter where I went. So I ran. I changed my name, my life. I thought I was safe. But then that text. My heart ached for her. But I needed to know more. The cop, Tati, said you're hiding something terrible. Is it just Marcus? Or is there more? She flinched, her eyes darting away. There's nothing else, she said. But her voice was too quick, too sharp. I didn't believe her. But I didn't push. Not yet. We walked back in silence, the truth hanging between us like a storm cloud. I wanted to trust her, to believe she was just a victim. But that flicker of doubt remained. What else was she hiding? And how far would she go to keep it buried? The truth came out in pieces, like a puzzle scattered across a table. Sarah Miller started opening up, her words halting but heavy with years of silence. She told me about Marcus, his temper, the way he'd isolated her, controlled her. She'd escaped one night, leaving everything behind, building a new life as Sarah. But the fear never left her. That text, she said, was the first sign he'd found her. I wanted to believe her, to wrap her in the safety of our family. But Tate's warning echoed, something terrible. Was it just Marcus? Or was there more? I couldn't shake the feeling that she was holding back, that there was a piece of the story she wasn't ready to share. I told Caleb everything that night, sitting him down in the living room, the fire crackling in the hearth. His face went pale, his hands clenching as I recounted Tate's warning. The text, Sarah's confession. Why didn't she tell me? He whispered, his voice breaking. She was scared. I said. She thought she was protecting you. He nodded, but I saw the hurt in his eyes, the betrayal. When Sarah joined us, the air was thick with tension. Caleb stood, pulling her into a hug, but it was stiff, uncertain. We'll figure this out, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Tate called the next day with more news. Marcus is still out there, he said. Paroled last year. My contact says he's been asking around, looking for Emily. You need to keep her close, John. And you need to be ready. Ready for what? I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. We installed new locks, kept the curtains drawn, but the house felt like a cage. Sarah was jumpy, her eyes always on the windows, her phone never far from her hand. Caleb tried to be strong, but I saw the strain, the way he watched her, searching for the woman he thought he knew. One night, it came to a head. A car slowed outside the house, its headlights cutting through the dark. Sarah froze, her breath hitching. It's him, she whispered, her voice raw with panic. I grabbed my old shotgun from the closet, my hands steady despite my racing heart. Caleb stood by Sarah, his arm around her, but his eyes were on me, wide with fear. The car idled for a moment, then drove off, its taillights fading into the night. False alarm. Maybe. But it shook us all. The next morning, Sarah sat me down. "There's something I didn't tell you," she said, her voice trembling. "The night I left Marcus, something happened. I didn't just run. I fought back. He came at me, and two hurt him. Badly. I thought he was dead. That's why I ran. Why I changed everything. If he's alive, he's not just looking for me. He wants revenge." Her words hit like a punch. I saw it now, the weight she carried. The guilt. The fear. She wasn't just a victim. She'd fought to survive. And it had cost her everything. I reached for her hand. My own trembling. "You did what you had to," I said. "You're not alone anymore." We called Tate. Told him everything. He promised to track Marcus. To keep us safe. But safety felt fragile. Like a promise made in a storm. Caleb and Sarah clung to each other. Their love strained but unbroken. I watched them. My heart heavy but full. We were family. Flaws and secrets and all. Whatever came next, we'd face it together, Marcus. The truth. The terrible things we all carry. As I sat on the porch that night, the stars finally breaking through the clouds, I felt a flicker of hope. Sarah's past was a shadow. But shadows only exist where there's light. Maybe, just maybe, we could find enough light to keep the darkness at bay.